This is the Ramana Maharshi 40 Verses on Reality Satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and inquire into the self. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. This is Richard Clarke. Welcome. I'm hosting this satsang. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I've been blessed with years of deep teaching and practice that I bring to this satsang. This week's reading from 40 Verses on Reality is verse 29 on experience. These are Ramana's words. The only inquiry leading to self realization is seeking the source of the I with an interned mind and without uttering the word I. Meditation on I am not this, I am that may be an aid to the inquiry, but it cannot be the inquiry. Actual experiential investigation of yourself is the way to self realization, says Ramana. Contemplating, I am that, or reflecting on it are mental activities. They help your mind prepare for inquiry, but since they are mental, they are not the inquiry itself. They are the mind's thinking in a way that maybe prepares it for not thinking. The inquiry goes beyond what is merely mental into the knowledge existence that is your existence. In the metaphor of the rope mistaken as snake, does contemplating the snake and its history help you see that it's a rope? No. Ignorance is revealed by the light of knowledge, and you see the snake was always a rope. Ramana also said that inquiry is more akin to feeling than thinking. This is an important hint for practice. It is not the thought, but the experience. So maybe inquiry is more like feeling for the source of identity rather than thinking about it and reflecting on your identity. You're not going to find it with your mind, so try some other way. Self knowledge is experience, not just another idea. Inquiry uses consciousness to look directly at consciousness. It is the end appearing as the means. Ramana tells us that inquiry is the only spiritual approach that doesn't use the mind's ignorance as a part of the process. This is important. Thoughts lead to more thoughts, and what you seek is not a thought, it is who you are. You can experience it, you can know it, but never with the mind. Now, here are some notes for practice to make this your experience. Inquire, dismiss every idea, dismiss anything that has a cause or has a beginning or that changes? What remains? This is what you're looking for. Dive into that. Who am I? Within you right now is something that does not change, that has never changed. Do you notice it? It's there. It's always there. Just notice. Dismiss everything that changes. What doesn't change? The knower doesn't change. The known is always changing. Who am I? Now, to our videos for the week. First is Swami Adyasakti continuing his series on 40 verses on reality, talking about verse 29, experience. This is extracted from a longer talk.
Namaste, and welcome to another episode of Uladu Narpadu, the 29th in the series. This one follows very closely to the previous verse, which you should also take a look at before, if you haven't already seen it. But is it really correct practice of self-inquiry, Atma Vichara, the direct path of knowledge? No. And why is that? Because, as my Buddhist meditation master once said to me, Nibbana is non-conceptual. Boom. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I instantly went into deep meditation. It took me 1.5 years to work out the consequences or the deep meaning of that. And similarly, when Ramana gives an instruction like this, it should hit us really hard. Because what have we been doing? Reading books, going to talks and lectures, maybe going to workshops, maybe sitting in meditation and just thinking, huh? I am that, I am that. I am not the body. Huh? The very first thing my Adi Guru taught his disciples is, you are not this body. Did any of them realize it? Because we see them later on competing for positions of power in religious organization, trying to make money by hook or by crook to shore up their positions in a religious organization and to purchase name and fame and disciples. So what kind of realization is that? Why didn't they get it? Because they were in the realm of thought. Thinking, I am not the body, is very different from realizing I am not the body. So I know what you're going to say. Well, how do you do that? The Buddha gives the 8 jhanas, 8 platforms or bases of meditation. And so by going into these bases one by one, they become subtler and subtler until one completely forgets about the body. The first one is directed thought. And the second one is directed thought without words. and so on and so on. And they get really subtle. Like the fifth jhana is unlimited space. Now, if you really realize unlimited space, well, where is this body? The whole universe shrinks down to a tiny dot and then disappears, lost in unlimited space. Because no matter how big the creation is, it's still limited. And unlimited means unlimited. So in unlimited space, the creation, can't even be found. Then what? Unlimited consciousness. Well, of course, that's Brahman. But a funny thing happened on the way to the meditation hall. If you actually realize unlimited space, emptiness, no thingness, what's going to happen? Brahman is going to manifest in the middle of that. Why? It's a rule, it's a law of the universe, of consciousness, of existence, that when you take something to an extreme, the opposite manifests. So if you take emptiness all the way to the point of nothingness, what happens? You get everythingness, or Brahman. So this is the extraordinary thing about the Buddha's path. It's not really different from the Vedic path at all. In fact, the whole teaching of the Buddha fits very nicely in the category of Raja Yoga. Because what is the ultimate in Raja Yoga is the destruction of the mind and ego. And I don't think you can find a better method or approach to it than the one taught by the Buddha. The final stage, the highest jhana, is neither perception nor non-perception. It's a really tricky one. I'm not going to try to describe it here. I already talked about it in the earlier series on Nibbana. So you should take a look at that if you're curious. But to get rid of this idea of I as an individual ego is the whole point of meditation. So if you come out of meditation, sitting in your Zendo or whatever, and then you're going out in the world trying to make a name for yourself, trying to collect money and followers, writing and selling books, and after name and fame, giving interviews, and so on like this. What is that? That means you haven't realized it. Because if you really realize non-self, or the destruction of the mind through emptiness, you're just going to sit around and like bliss out. There's nothing else to do. Why? For who? You see? So these people who, sit down and meditate for a few minutes and then go run around with an active social life and business and all that are just fooling themselves. They're simply saying, I am that. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not this ego. But they're not realizing anything. Why? Because they're stuck on the conceptual platform, the verbal platform, the mental platform. And on the mental platform of name and form, the name or the word is the thing. But when I started this series more than 5 years ago, this YouTube channel, I was coming from being in a faith-based process for over 20 years. And it just didn't work. The reason it didn't work was precisely this, that we were not getting beyond the name and form. In fact, we were encouraged to cling to the name and form. In dualism dualistic philosophy is like that. But it doesn't bring self-realization. So I said, wait a minute, I'm going to start my search all over again. And this time, instead of basing it on faith or information or verbal knowledge, I'm going to base it on experience. And so I began to cultivate the experience of meditation rather than the knowledge or the words about meditation. It makes all the difference in the world.
And now we're going to listen to Nome as Nome talks about your very being.
Your very being is the self. It is existence without beginning or end. Imagine it as individualized, and samsara appears. Imagine it as being a body, and it seems as if limited, endowed with birth and death. All the while, birthless, unborn, deathless existence is your nature. It is without boundary, free of form, with no condition or state. It just is as it is. Spiritual practice is for the purpose of liberating one from the imagined bondage, the bondage of thinking of oneself as an embodied ego entity. For this reason, the Maharshi showed the direct way by the inquiry, who am I? To discern directly within yourself that your nature is not embodied, not individualized, free of any kind of objective form whatsoever, undefined by anything of a transient nature. It reveals that your being is innately Brahman, the absolute reality. Brahman has no bondage. Brahman has no imagination. Brahman has no suffering, but is of the nature of perpetual being, consciousness, bliss. This is not so much a topic to be studied as a truth to be realized within yourself by experiential knowledge. With the same knowledge that you know that you exist. Even now you know that you exist. How do you know this? And what is this existence? You do not know it by sensing, and you do not know it by thinking. You know it in a different way. You exist. What is this existence? Set aside the bodily conception, the idea of I am the body. Set aside defining yourself in terms of bodily activity and bodily attributes. And what is your nature? You will not think of it. What you are is not a thought. Set aside the attempt to define yourself by thought, and what is your real nature? If it seems as if individualized, as if you are an individual being listening to this now, this instruction that you are not an individual, but the Absolute Self, if this seems to be the case for you, then who is this individual? This individualized existence, what is its real nature? The Maharshi says that if you penetrate into the heart of the ego, only the real self is found. What did he mean by this? Find out. The Vedas, specifically the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, instructs Tattvamasi, that you are. That is the Absolute, the pure self, or Brahman. And it declares the truth that this is exactly what you are. What does it mean? Again, find out. Find out by inquiring within yourself, who am I? If you earnestly inquire into the depths of your nature, the self which is ever existent will shine, ever revealed. Inquire so that you abide in silence. Silence is being in which there is no I conception.
All right. Now let us take a few minutes to meditate ourselves. Breathe in and out with long, slow breaths. Feel the breath as it comes in and as it goes out. And now notice that you exist. You exist and you know that you exist. And now investigate within yourself. I know that I exist. So feel this sense of I. Don't think about it. Feel it. Where does it come from? Feel this within yourself. Is it from the body? The senses? The life energy? Your thoughts? Your mind? Your intellect? your ego. How about from the deep peace of meditation and sleep? If it's not any of these, who am I? And we'll close with a short chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you. This series on Ramana's 40 verses on reality will continue in the following weeks. If this satsang was of interest, I have more: a free book site, a podcast, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on screen next. Namaste.